Hello friends, so I'm back again, and this time we would be looking at a series dedicated to the invasion of India by Alexander, which happened between 327 to 325 BCE. This series has been divided into three parts. We'll be looking at the first part today, and we would look at Alexander's approach till Indus River. The second part will be dedicated to Alexander's occupation of the Punjab region, along with his famous battle with King Porus at Jhelum, his subsequent victories and retreat. And the third part would look at the questions as to what problems Alexander was facing at in India, and why Indians at that time were not able to repel successfully this invasion by Alexander. So we'll just look at start this by first of all going through a quote of Alexander, and he says that, and I quote it: "Those who have the courage to conquer fear are made free, and those who are conquered by it are made to suffer until they have the courage to defeat it, or death takes them." So this is a quote by Alexander, and we will now just look at some of the photographs related to Alexander's life. And this is a mosaic of Alexander. It is at the Naples Archaeological Museum in Italy, and this is a full mosaic actually, where Alexander is shown fighting King Darius III at Issus in November 333 BCE. And this shows Alexander leading his companion cavalry towards King Darius. This is how Alexander would have looked like as per the mosaic. This is Philip II of Macedon, Alexander's father, who created this strong state of Macedonia, and his great army, which subsequently fell into the hands of Alexander, and conquered a region between Macedonia to Indus River, including Egypt. This is Olympias, the mother of Alexander, a very ambitious woman. She was one of the wives of Philip, and made sure that after Philip's assassination, there were no pretenders to the crown, and Alexander gets the throne easily. This is Aristotle, or in India we call him Arastu, and he is one of the greatest Western philosophers. He was the disciple of Plato, who in turn was a disciple of Socrates, and he was the guru. Aristotle was the guru of Alexander, and Philip made sure that his sons get the best possible education, and for which he contacted Aristotle, who in turn came to Macedonia and taught Alexander and other princes uh, of Macedon. This is the route of Alexander's invasion. If I could just magnify it a little bit, you can see on the right hand side Alexander's route towards India. He crossed the Hindu Kush, went to conquered the Punjab, went till Bias River, and then on his retreat near Karachi port, present Karachi, he divided his army into three parts and went. One part went through the various passes there. He himself went through the Gedrosian desert and reached Babylon. So this is all the route of Alexander's march. Now we come to the sources of Alexander's invasion, and there are plenty of them. First of all, we'll look at Anabasis. This is written by Arian of Nicomedia, who was a Roman historian in the 2nd century AD. We have a Parallel Lives by Plutarch, which contains a biography of Alexander, and this was written in again 2nd century AD. Bibliotheca Historica, Diodorus Siculus, who was a Roman historian in the 1st century BCE, this work also contains a chapter on the life of Alexander. Then we have an account of Justin, 3rd century Roman historian. Historia Alexandri Magni by Q. Curtius Rufus in the 1st century BCE. Then we have the accounts of Nearchus, Eumenes, who both were on Alexander's staff, and Aristobulus, who is a Greek historian. And then we have an account of Ptolemy I, but that account has been lost. So these are the sources of Alexander's invasion of India. Now, what was the purpose of Alexander's invasion of India? It looks like he wanted to bring under him all those regions which were previously under the Achaemenid Empire. And friends, you would know that 200 years before Alexander, Darius I, the Shah of Persia, the Achaemenid emperor of Persia, he conquered the Indus Valley, which was then under Achaemenid rule for the next 160-70 years. And when Alexander approached these regions, they had already gained their independence. And so Alexander wanted to conquer all these areas who were previously under the Achaemenid Empire. And then there were the presence of two Indian chiefs. One was Ambhi, the king of Takshashila, and another was Sashigupta, who was an adventurer of the northwest regions. So they were at the Alexander's court when he was campaigning against the Scythians in modern day Uzbekistan. So that may have helped Alexander. But there is another cause, which is Alexander's own inquisitive nature, and we'll look at that. This is the world map of Hecataeus. Now, Hecataeus was a Greek navigator and geographer who lived about 550 BCE, and he created this world map. I had explained this thing in the second chapter of Chandragupta Maurya as well. So this is what Greek envisioned the world to be, and India was the place where this ocean, which surrounds this known world, ends here. And Alexander wanted to reach that end, because Aristotle himself told him that the ocean which surrounds the earth ended somewhere near India, and he wanted to reach that place, because once he reached that place, that means he is the master of all the known world. So that is his inquisitive nature which he wanted to fulfill. And now we come to the events of the invasion. And Alexander started his invasion with 120,000 men who crossed the Hindu Kush. Now, 120,000 men, yes, Greeks do say that, but there would be lots of people who had nothing to do with wars. For example, there would be merchants, there would be women, there would be children. So total was about 120,000 people who crossed the Hindu Kush and started their campaigns of invasion of India. And this army was divided into two. So Alexander himself held one part of the army with Craterus and Koinos, who were his generals, and other half was led by Perdiccas and Hephaestion. And Perdiccas had this important duty to build a bridge of boats at Indus after conquering Pushkalavati. Now, Pushkalavati was the capital of Punjab in those days. There were, or Gandhara in those days. There were two capitals of Gandhara. One was the Pushkalavati, and another was Takshashila. So he had to cross the Indus first, but he had to take the help of Raja Ambhi in order to cross the Indus. So we look at the military resources and conflict. So Indian opposition to Alexander from different centers may be assessed in the light of facts recorded by Greeks themselves. And Punjab at that time was intersected by small kingdoms and republican states. So we have Q. Curtius Rufus, who states that these people of the Punjab, they were fierce warriors, fierce nations ready to resist Alexander with their blood. Aryan states that the large part of the Punjab was held by independent tribes. So these small independent tribes were there, but the republican states and kingdom itself, but there was no unity among them, and they were, quite frankly, they were independent, and they would know what happened. I mean, Alexander conquered them because of the reason that there was no unity among them. But anyhow, so, and Alexander had the first taste of Indian arms from a tribe called Astakanoi. Now, these are called Hastinayana in Sanskrit, and they resided near the confluence of Swat and Kabul rivers, with their capital at Pushkalavati, which is in modern Charsadda in Pakistan. So, and Greeks called this chief of Astakanoi as Astis. There is no Sanskrit name for him. And he withstood the Greek siege for 30 days till he fell fighting. And there was this Indian guy named Sanjios. Perhaps his Sanskrit name is Sanjaya. So he was first with Astis, but then he left Astis camp and he joined the Greeks. And when the city fell, he was given the administration of this fallen city. So next we have the Aspasi or Ashwanayanas. Now these Aspasi tribe, they lived near Kunar Valley, and Alexander besieged their fortress. But on the first day, what happened was Alexander was struck by a dart and was injured very badly. The chief of Aspasi has been called as Chuaspis, who was killed by Ptolemy in a cavalry clash near a hill. And Alexander's soldiers were so enraged on seeing that Alexander was injured. When they entered the capital of Aspasi, they killed all. They killed the garrison, women, children, and this was the one of the things about Alexander, particularly in India. We would see that he would resort to wholesale slaughter of civilian population uh, in course of his conquest. And these parts were economically very prosperous. So when Alexander defeated the Aspasi, he got about 230,000 oxen, which were sent back to Macedonia. And then there is Argion. So this is the citadel of Arigion, which was besieged by Alexander next. So, but what happened was, at the night, citizens of this place, they burned down their city and retreated towards nearby mountains. So Aragon is identified by Naugi village, which is in Bajora region of Pakistan. So after Aragon, Alexander went against Asakini. Asakini tribe was residing near a river called Maskavati, and they resided at Chakadara. There is a place called Chakadara in Swat Valley of Pakistan. These Asakini had a army of 30,000 cavalry, 38,000 infantry, 30 elephants, and 7,000 mercenaries. And they all gathered at a place called Maskavati or Masaga, which was their capital. This is the photograph I have found from the internet. This is Masaga, or the place is now called Churchill's Picket. I'm not 100% sure as to what kind of excavations have taken place at this place, but this is known to be Masaga or Maskavati, which Alexander infested. So Aryan informs us that the siege of Masaga went for 5 days. Diodorus says that it went for 9 days. So again, Alexander was injured by an arrow which struck his ankle on the first day. On the second day, the Indians were routed in a cavalry clash which costed them 200 dead. Now, this was sources indicate that there was a faint retreat by the Greeks, which made Indians overconfident, and then the Greeks came back and routed the Indian force. Again, the name of the person, the chief of this tribe was Assakenes. Assakenes was the chief of this tribe and who was killed by Ptolemy again in a cavalry clash. So the struggle continued. These Ascanians or Ashwakanayas, they would not give up. So they continued their struggle under their queen Cleophas. So the wife of the dead king continued the struggle, and Greek sources tell us that even their women participated in battling out with the Greek soldiers. And along with these 7,000 mercenaries who joined the fight, and the nearby kingdom of Abhisara, which also sent its soldiers uh, to Queen Cleophas. Cleophas's Sanskrit name would be Kripa, and she continued this struggle even after the death of her husband. But they had to surrender after some time, and the terms of the treaty stipulated Alexander to let go of these mercenaries who fought against him. Alexander agreed. He said that okay, you mercenaries, you will be allowed to leave the city safely. However, these mercenaries, when they reached near a hill, uh, they were surrounded by the soldiers of Alexander's and were killed to a man. And Plutarch says that this is the biggest blot on Alexander's career as a military general, because he first allowed these people to go unharmed, but then he thought of something else and then he massacred all of them. And now this is the ruins of Pushkalavati. Again, this is in Pakistan, and this is a place called Bala Hisar in Pakistan where have these ruins. These are, you can see, these are the hills where they say these are the ruins of Pushkalavati. Now there is an interesting story about Pushkalavati, and they say that this is the ruins of Pushkalavati near Bala Hisar in Pakistan. Now, the friends, the thing is that both Pushkalavati and Takshashila were the capital of Gandhara in those days, and as per Ramayana, the Hindu text uh, concerning which concerns the life of God Ram, uh, the 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 sons, there were two sons of Bharat. Bharat was the brother of God Ram, and his two sons were named Taksha and Pushkala. So Taksha founded the city of Takshashila on the east side of Indus, and Pushkal, he founded the city of Pushkalavati, which is named after him. So this is the ruins of Pushkalavati. And then meanwhile, Perdiccas and Hephaestion, they took a direct route along the Kabul River, crossed the Khyber, and besieged Pushkalavati, or Greeks called it Pushkalavati or Puseli on the west bank of Indus River. So, but after some time, Pushkalavati also surrendered, and then there were nearby citadels like Bazira, modern Barikot, Ora, modern Odigram. They also surrendered after a prolonged siege. But how did Alexander go through this? You can just see one photograph, and this is the rock of Aranos, which Alexander captured in about April 326 BCE. And this rock of Aranos is at Shangla district in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province of Pakistan. And this is about 3000 meters above the sea level. You can see Indus flowing nearby it. And it took Alexander a lot of efforts to gain entrance to this this hill, this big mountain, this big rock, and then to conquer the people over there. He massacred perhaps 1,000 men there and built a altar to Athena. So this is how difficult it was for Alexander to conquer all these hilly areas of Gandhara. So this brings me to the end of the first part of the Rock of Aranos, because Perdiccas has already reached Indus and he will be building a bridge of boats with Raja M. Ambi in order to reach the interiors of the Punjab. And we will look at the part 2 of Alexander's conquest of the Punjab region and his subsequent battles. So till then, I'll be back. Maybe the second part may be posted tomorrow, and we'll look at all these things regarding Alexander's conquest or invasion of India. Uh, so that is it. Thank you so much for all the comments and all the support. Please like and subscribe the channel, and I'll be back possibly tomorrow with the second part of Alexander's invasion of India. Thank you so much.